What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Now today we are going to be breaking down South by Midnight. This game has been getting some good reviews, some good praise. The soundtrack as well especially has been getting some good praise. So, without further ado, let's go straight in and break this bad boy down. So a lot is happening within the first minute of this. Very percussion heavy, very jazz inspired, very kind of folkish, country, so many genres. Makes sense because this is down in the south. The game is based down in the south, south of Midnight, um, and it's accumulating all of the folklore that you get. So it's kind of like folk music. If you travel past, if you travel down in the south, you hear a lot of these instruments, people playing them. Kicks off with some kind of. It kicks off with an acoustic guitar. You hear the kind of echo coming from the wood of the guitar. Right there, the echo. That's also kind of a lot of like the theme for the South. Like if you watch like movies that's based in the South, other games are based in the South, they always have this instrument. It's a very South-made instrument. The bass, along with the kick from the drums, comes in right here. The echo from the bass. So it's a bass guitar, acoustic guitar, some drums. There's another kind of whirlwind or string instrument that's playing. It's leaving my brain right now. But we have that motif. Notice though there's no like kind of strings. There's no standard like orchestra. It's very percussion heavy. It's like a normal song. It's very soulful. So it's kind of got that jazz that jazz kind of melody, that jazz tone to it. So there is I do tell a lie, sorry, there is a string that comes in, but it's kind of like a haunting string. Like it's a really just haunting string. What it reminds me of, this is not a good example, but I feel like it is. If this reminds me a lot of the Shadows of Evil, like Black Ops 3 Zombies theme. Maybe we'll have to break that one down. That whole map, that whole aesthetic, that whole like tonality of it, very jazz inspired. Not so much like South, but it's very jazz. And this is paying homage to those jazz roots. If you know anything about jazz roots comes from black people. Tapping into history here. Great. Love history. Right there. That's the theme. That is the motif. That's the sound that's probably going to be continued throughout the game, throughout the story. That there is just instantly. 17 seconds and we're getting into some motifs. So kind of a trumpet, maybe like a saxophone, along with an instrument that I'm forgetting off the top of the dome, but it's all fusing this soul, this jazz. Right there. Right there. That little tonality, that little kind of note shift, like that kind of note, change of the note is what gives it the jazz. Is what gives it the jazz. So right there, 46 seconds. I guess we're just having a session, we are going to be doing interviews on this channel. I've managed to get some composers um that I'm going to be planning on doing in the nearest like coming of weeks. And one of my goals here is to really allow the audience, who primarily my probably audience is, aspiring composers. You probably make and create music yourself, but you don't really know the avenue and how to get into. The reason why we're breaking down games and music and just breaking down kind of compositions, or tackling games, because I play games every single day. I love video games, but one of the reasons why we're doing it is so uh, we can aspire to really like put forward a path in how you guys can kind of follow other composers. And they're not big composers, they're not the Hans Zimmers of the world, but they're the composers that's worked in the industry, that's worked on credible things. And we're just gonna have creative process talkings. It's gonna be just interviews, and it's just gonna be a casual discussion, and hopefully you can feel inspired. And one of the things is how a lot of composers come from the jazz world. That's one thing I've noticed as I've been talking and sending messages out to people, is how many of these composers come from a jazz world, whether they're playing, a ukulele, whether they come and have played from, a trombone or a trumpet. They come from this jazz world. And it's probably the same for this, and it's probably for the same for this composer. Comes from that jazz world. So when South of Midnight team probably approached this composer, they were probably like, let's fuse it, let's gap it. 46 seconds, and it's so much of jazz, so much of soul, so much of just raw instruments blended together, creating something brilliant, in my opinion. But as it's in the 46 seconds, we slow it down, and now we're going to be bringing in strings. Because right there, they brought in, like, this is like the motif. That's probably what, the soundtrack is. But it slows down now. See? Now they're having a solo. Sorry, I tell a lie. But they are going to be slowing it down because you do hear some strings come in. But they're slowing it down because that's what jazz does. It slows it down, ready for like the main event. So there is strings because they're doing the riser. So it's a short sustained string. It's building up. We have the kind of solo. I'm guessing maybe from some kind of mouth instrument. I'm forgetting the name of it. Just like with Assassin's Creed Shadows, proper representation matters. This is the composer who's French, doing his homework, doing the research, and honouring the history of Southern music. And not even like the representation, obviously, in terms of characters, but like just the music in the South in United States. This is what it's all about. This is when you get proper representation. I want to bring it back really quickly because there's a part in the notation of the strings that clicks back to the motif. No, it's not. See, I think. Right there. Like like it just pays homage to the motif. But beautiful strings, long sustained, beautiful, played perfectly. Then the guitar from the beginning comes back. We don't hear a lot about that guitar in the beginning. The guitar in the beginning comes back. Then the drums come in. Then we have a break within the drums, a drum break, and then it plays the percussion along with more southern inspiration. Now I would say this is more of like kind of southern folklore than kind of like more of like maybe soul and less jazz, maybe. Just like this playing as like you're waking up to sort out your farms. Song of the year. Song of the year. Right there. Song of the year. Soundtrack of the year. I don't even care. I don't even care. Soundtrack of the year. That was incredible. You get some southern folklore instruments there in the beginning. Right there. You just got some jazz, some soul, just have that. You know, have that, ladies and gentlemen. Have that. Enjoy it. The world. We're getting some like riffs, some kind of solo, along with it. We're just riffing off the top, kind of adding a bit of life, some character into these instruments. Right there. The tension builds. Tension builds, but in a good way. Strings come in. Right there. Echo. You hear the reverb? The echo comes in. Strings come in. The strings are the short sustains from last time, building it up now for a transition then. going into the third act. But then if you notice, what does the drums do? They're building out. The kick is just kick, 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 kick. It's just going. Then, kind of all the instruments from the last two acts of this soundtrack, all the instruments build up into this massive crescendo, and then we get... They did remove the kind of guitars. They have taken out some of the instruments. It's not all the instruments, but it's an accompany of kind of what this song represents. Some keys, some jazzy keys. But this is the third act of the song. I'm guessing this is it's so refreshing to hear a soundtrack that like really isn't all about doom and gloom. Even though I've seen clips and I've seen stuff from the game that, you know, there are some stressful moments. But this song doesn't represent more of the positive outlook, you know. And kind of more of the kind of the positive. I'm not going to say that. But it's hopeful, you know. It's ambiguous. It's big. It's epic. It's grand. But it's hopeful. It's not like melancholy, dramatic, and you know, like a normal soundtracks are. It's more out there. It's more free. So that's a stinger. But this little act bit be here breaks down, not breaks down, sorry, but let's... So we're getting to the third act, we're getting into more of the kind of traditional and kind of soundtrack making that composers get into. We got into like the first 3 minutes is kind of non-linear in the sense of like it's paying homage to what Southern music in America like represents and what it historical wise like what it's meant to for the whole world as well, especially the Western world. We're paying that homage. We're painting a picture of like what the story is representing through sound. You know, South of Midnight, you can feel the game through the music, and that's number one. Number two is it pays homage, and then we get that massive transition, and then it goes more into the classical storytelling. But the strings are paying homage back to the Southern folklore music and the Southern music, like the atmosphere. Right here. Right there, like through classical music, it's like paying homage. Then around here, around by the kind of the finale, then as the stinger, as it's building, as it's dropping, as it's coming out of the tone, the epicness, the grandness that, you know, soundtracks represent for games and movies. We get this kind of jazz mystery, you know, kind of an investigation, you know? 1920s thriller noir type of style that would accompany jazz. Even there, doom, doom, down, 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 doom, down, 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 down. Like it's just so spyish, so haunting a little bit. And then you leave the instruments play out. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my reaction to Hazel's story of South of Midnight. Let me know what you think about the game, and let me know what you think about the soundtrack, and well, this track, and let me know if you want me to break down any soundtrack from South of Midnight or any track within the soundtrack. You know what I mean. And make sure you leave a like as well for interviews on this channel that is going to be happening very soon. Till my next video, ladies and gentlemen, take care, have a nice weekend, and bye bye.